Welcome to Gambling with an Edge with your hosts Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin. Bob Dancer is America's premier video poker writer and teacher. He's written 10 books, including Video Poker for the Intelligent Beginner and the best-selling $1 Million Video Poker. He helped develop the computer software Video Poker for Winners, and in 2004 he was inducted into the Video Poker Hall of Fame. Richard Munchkin has been a professional advantage player for over 30 years and is in the Blackjack Hall of Fame. His book, Gambling Wizards, Conversations with the World's Greatest Gamblers, is a testament to the many ways you can succeed at gambling. The goal of the show is that you'll be a more knowledgeable gambler tomorrow than you were yesterday. And now, here are Bob and Richard.
Good morning. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer. Our guest today is a poker player from Los Angeles named Limon. So we'll be talking to Limon in a few minutes. In the news, in the World Series of Poker, there's this big tournament called the Colossus, which has something like 22,000 entries in it. It's more than halfway done, and it was kind of a big scandal that with that many people were expecting $1 million first prize, and instead it's 680,000. Richard, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually I did. I mean, I think the players are just wrong about this. One of the complaints that you often hear from tournament poker players is that the variance is so big, right? So by shifting the money out, paying more people prize money, yes, you get less money at the top, but more people get paid, which should be good for the pros. So, and I mean, it should be good for the ploppies as well, right? So, you know, I think it's a good thing.
All right. Limon, did you enter the Colossus? Do you have any thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I basically don't play tournaments. I actually rail against tournaments a lot. I think tournaments are bad for poker. If they're going to flatten out the pay, that's fine. I mean, one of the bad things about tournaments is the top-heavy payouts cause a lot of money to leave the poker economy. So, you know, if they're going to flatten out the pay scale, that's actually good for the poker economy.
Well, they actually are doing something really interesting this year. They're completely flattening it out. DraftKings, which, you know, is one of the daily fantasy sports companies, is one of the sponsors of the WSOP, and they're having a 50-50, which, for listeners who aren't familiar with daily fantasy sports, they have these tournaments where you only have to come in the top 50%. Right. And you get paid even money. Well, it's slightly less than that because they have to take their rake. But they
how do you guys do a gambling show this early in the morning? I mean, who is listening to this?
Well, yes, most gamblers get it later on a podcast, so they're probably not listening to it live, unless they've been up playing all night, as my co-host has, and just rush here from a casino. But
yeah, I just rolled out of bed, and I mean, some of my opinions might not be very sharp. I'm not even sure I'm awake yet. I'm trying to have my first cup of coffee, and you guys are just bouncing off the walls over there.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to finish this about the DraftKings. So they're sponsoring an event at the World Series of Poker that is a 50-50 poker tournament. So half the people will win even money on their buy-in, which,
right.
Again, I think if you're a pro, I think it's an opportunity you're going to have a lot of players who play really badly because they don't understand the difference in structure. So,
well, I mean, basically, if you're the best player in a tournament, basically, mathematically, you want it to be a winner-take-all tournament. But unfortunately, most people's rolls can't handle that. They're going to go broke before they ever realize, their true equity in these tournaments. And since these people are just basically going to go broke before they can.
I don't think you're right about that.
If you're the best player in the tournament, why wouldn't you want it to be all go to first place?
Because your edge is your edge, and if you had every tournament be a 50-50, you would just grind out your advantage and not have the variance. No matter how good a player you are, you're not going to, win the tournament. I mean, think about it. If there are 10,000 entries and you're good enough to, win it once out of every 8,000 times, you'd still rather win 50-50s and win them, 90% of the time or something.
Is this Bob or Dick that I'm talking to?
This is Richard.
Hey, Richard, well, yeah, you're not actually arguing with me. You just said the same thing I said, that the reason why you wouldn't want it all to go to first place is because you can't handle the variance, not because it isn't mathematically exactly what you would want if you were the best player in the tournament.
That's true. That's true. It would just be a matter of variance.
Right. I mean, I just rolled out of bed and I know that.
All right. So let's do something else.
I'm kidding, guys. I'm having a good time with you.
So, somebody else rolled out of bed a couple days ago at the Aria. They are also having a big tournament where a $25,000 buy-in, but some guy entered their daily tournament for $125, but they gave him the wrong ticket. So he sat down at the $25,000 when he only paid $125, and he did pretty well, knocked out a couple players, and he eventually blew. He blew out.
It sounded like they arrested him or something. I mean, it said he was escorted out of the place.
Well, you had to have a hunch that he knew what was happening. He knew he didn't belong in that tournament, and he was taking a shot.
I don't know what he thought was going to happen. I mean, he couldn't really think that if he won the thing, they're going to pay him whatever the top prize is.
I don't know what he thought, but apparently some of the people he busted out, they gave back several $1,000s for a consolation prize because they were busted out by somebody who wasn't in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think they missed a golden opportunity for some real goodwill promotion right there. I think that once the casino figured out that they screwed the pooch, they should have just added the guy's $25,000 to the prize pool and let him play. They're going to have to end up giving that money back to someone anyway. So why not just add the $25K to the prize pool and let the poor guy play? It's going to be a great feel-good story. I think they really messed this up.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. And if they did
Thank you, Richard.
If they really did, escort him out in handcuffs, which is what happens often to, table games players, I think it's just another, overreaction by casino security, as often happens in these places.
All right. Another story.
Wow, we're just rifling through the stories, man. There's a lot of news in poker. I didn't even know there was so much news in poker.
There's this Malaysian businessman named Paul Phua, who...
Yep, I know him.
And he was arrested during last year's World Cup for accused of taking big bets. And the FBI pulled some shenanigans by cutting off internet to the villas and going in and pretending they were internet repairmen and taking pictures. And so, as of yesterday, the case was totally dismissed. He gets all his money back, his bail, and his $48 million airplane, which
good for him. But what happened? Didn't he have a son or something that paid some money, forfeited some money?
There were several of them. The son paid something like $100,000 and agreed not to come back to the United States for 5 years.
Well, you saw all these dudes lining up to bail him out. Ivy, the guy with like really bad skin. I don't know his name. He's got like blonde hair. All these pro poker players were lining up to bail him out. So you basically know who's putting these guys in the $1 million one drop.
Yes. Yeah. So you think it was they were taking care of their paycheck or their
sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah. You and Bob and Richard, you two try getting thrown in jail for bookmaking and see if Phil Ivey comes and bails your asses out. I don't see that happening.
I think you're right on that.
Well, I'm glad to see this dropped. I thought, what a ridiculous waste of government resources to be going after a bookmaker in Las Vegas, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, in reality, though, the number one place that if you're a bookmaker, the number one place that you're going to get hammered is probably Las Vegas, because you're in direct competition with the town industry. I mean, in Los Angeles, if you're a bookmaker in Los Angeles, there's no like big moneyed industry to shut you down. You know, the entertainment industry doesn't care. They're actually hoping that there's some bookmakers so they can get some action down. But in Las Vegas, you're going against the town. You're going against the mayor, the city council. They're all paid off by casinos. The last place in the world I'd want to be a bookmaker is Las Vegas. I mean, seems to me.
No, I agree. The casinos have too much power.
All right. Let's, speaking of Los Angeles.
Now, wait, speaking of the World Cup, there's just some breaking news this morning, right?
Yes, actually, as of about 15 minutes ago when we're doing this live, Seth Blatter, president of FIFA, who's reelected 2 days ago, has resigned. So there's this huge scandal, and so 2 days ago he said no way in the world he would resign. Why should he? And today he said goodbye. So this is good news. By the time most of you listen to this, that will be old news, because most of our listeners get this on podcast, and so they will have heard the Seth Blatter story already.
Well, you see, though, it's breaking news to me because I just rolled out of bed. So, hey, thank you guys.
Ah, well, good. So don't you feel better already for doing this?
I feel amazing.
All right. That's too much information. Okay, so
it can get a lot worse.
Now, Los Angeles and Las Vegas are about 270 miles apart, depending exactly on where you're going and which city. Now, how does the poker scene in Las Vegas compare to the poker scene in Los Angeles?
Well, basically, I mean, I hate to give out this information, but basically Los Angeles is 100 times better. Los Angeles is a very rich town with a lot of very rich people who play poker on a daily basis. I mean, Los Angeles is basically the poker capital of the world. We have card rooms that are as big as Las Vegas casinos. I mean, just poker tables as far as the eye can see. Most people, when you tell them you're a professional poker player, they assume that you spend a lot of time in Las Vegas, but I don't spend any time in Las Vegas. I mean, not you two. You two are obviously doing well, but most people in Las Vegas are broke. The locals are like the locals and the regs, like the nittiest players in the history of the world. They basically just hold down chairs waiting for tourists. In Los Angeles, you've got locals and regulars that are millionaires and they like to gamble. So, I mean, Los Angeles is the place to be, other than like Vegas on a fight weekend or Vegas during the Colossus or something. It's great. But most of the time, Vegas is just, a dusty old city.
The reason we do well is because we're not poker players.
Right.
And what you said, it's funny what you said about those poker players here. I don't know if you read Nolan Dalla's blog, but the first day of the World Series, he had this blog post about how, the first thing that happened to him when he walked into the World Series is some guy hitting him up for money, wants to go to the ATM with him and will he have money tomorrow, after Nolan tells him he doesn't have any cash, Well,
yeah. I mean, Vegas is, especially during the World Series. It's also the World Series of railbirding. Like, every famous railbird on the planet is there plying their trade. I mean, it's like Christmas for Eskimo Clark and Sam Grizzle, Gebra Hewitt, Goydam, Ray Davis. I mean, the list goes on and on. The greatest railbirds on the planet are hitting everybody up for money on a daily basis. I once thought a great reality TV show would be to get the world's greatest railbirds in a house and, just sort of follow them around every day. And at the end of the day, the one that could get put in the biggest tournament or sort of, like scam the most money, it's sort of like, what was that show where they could kick somebody off every week?
Survivor,
the guy who can get the least amount of money or get put in the best tournament gets kicked out of the house every week. And the last guy remaining just gets to keep the house or something. I would be must see TV. It would transcend poker. I give that to the world. It will transcend poker.
It would actually probably be more interesting than watching a lot of poker.
I know.
All right,
can't
now,
watch poker at all.
The Los Angeles card rooms have their history of cheating incidents, as
Right.
do the Vegas card rooms from several years ago. But the history seems to be different. Can you tell Tell us how that is.
Well, I mean, I don't want to like really dwell on cheating, only because the amount of cheating that you'll encounter in a live poker room since the advent of online poker is basically zero. I mean, the odds of you getting cheated are probably the same as you getting like struck by lightning. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh no, two guys checked it down the other day. That's not cheating, you know. A husband and wife checked it down. That's not cheating. Or a guy asked me this or that or blah blah blah." There's like a lot of little angles, but there isn't really actual organized cheating where you have a team of players signaling each other and they are going to whipsaw a player or best hand a player. That hasn't existed for any intents and purposes since 2002, 2003.
Really? Why? Did they all move online or something?
Of course they moved online. It's like just a no-brainer. You move to an unregulated, unwatched area where you can steal so much money. There's no chance that you're going to get beat up. There's no chance you're going to get killed. There's no chance you're going to go to prison. You just rob people like crazy. Not only can you rob them, but poker players are such giant fucking pussies. Nothing is going to happen to you. I mean, look at like Russ Hamilton. Look at like Howard Lederer. They robbed poker players of millions of dollars, and they basically just show up where they want to show up and do what they want to do. Russ Hamilton's hosting a game at hosting a poker game at Magic City in Florida, and nobody says a word to him. The guy stole millions of dollars from poker players. Stealing money online was and is the way to do it. There's no reason to steal money in a casino where something horrible can happen to you. I mean, if you try to steal money from people at Hawaiian Gardens Casino, you probably won't make it out of the casino alive. But if you want to try and steal money from people at Bovada.com or something, nothing's going to happen to you, basically.
Actually, I have to argue with you there.
All right.
I've actually, what you say about the poker games may very well be true, but those card rooms in California are the wild, wild west. There is more money being stolen in those places, not in the poker games. It's over in the Class 2 gaming corporation banked games.
Well, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, poker. It is. But I want to get to that, whether you ever wander over into the other half of the card rooms there in California, because there's some crazy stuff going on in those rooms.
Okay, everybody be quiet. Bob, you were breathing so loud. Are you asleep? Did Bob fall asleep?
I didn't think I was snoring.
It sounded like you were snoring. Go back and listen.
Yeah. Well, we're live, so yeah, he was breathing a little loud, but
I was liking it. I felt like I was on like one of those like sexy chat lines for a second. Bob was trying to seduce me.
You spend a lot of time on those lines?
Oh, well, this brought back memories, ever since I'm an old guy, so I was around before the internet. You had to, you had to let your fingers do the walking sometimes. Anyway, as far as what would be considered the Asian games side, that's what we generally call it, but it's basically California games.
Right.
I don't really go over there and play because there's no real advantage play over there. I mean, there obviously is, but not. Here's the thing about being a poker player. If you get involved in advantage play on the Asian game side, you will get barred, and so you don't want to get barred from the casino and then not be able to make money.
Yeah,
so
this is very true. And people used to say to me, "Well, they can't bar you. They're not even banking the game. It's not. You're paying a rake. They should want you as a player." But yeah, that's hogwash. I mean, they definitely will bar you in those rooms if you are a threat to the banking corporation, which, in the case of some of those rooms, they are illegally banking their own games.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's I don't know the ins and outs of who runs these corporations. I can tell you that you can make good money if you go in and bank the games, but you really sort of have to, I don't know.
Well, there's a good chance. There's a good chance you'll get barred if you go in and try to bank the games.
If you bank the games and you're smart about it, like you don't bank for more than a couple hours in a row. You bank on different casinos on like a rotation, so you're not in the same casino, say 2 days in a row, you can make a pretty good living actually just being a private banker. There's not a lot of people that do it, but there are people who do it. And the ones who are very good at it last. They last for years and years and years. The ones who are bad at it, the ones who basically just like chase big whales around the casino and try and bank whatever game they play in, as long as that whale is in the casino, those people are going to get barred. I mean, basically what's going to happen is the casino is going to say that you're harassing the customers, or something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that can happen is you very well can get cheated in those situations. A lot of times there are dealers and bosses who are in the process of cheating the corporations. So if you come in just as an outside banker, it's very easy for them to cheat you as well.
It's conceivable. These corporations have run a really tight ship. They know where their money is. The way that people are going to try and cheat the corporation in general, from what I've seen over the years, it isn't going to be nickel and dime stuff. They are going to try and hit a jackpot or one of the giant payouts. They're going to put in, some sort of cold deck, stacked deck, whatever you want to call it, because it's going to be a one-time hit for a lot of money. There's no way that they're going to just sit around and try and nickel and dime your run of the bank big player, and it's not worth the risk. But I have heard. I mean, you can just Google it. Players and floors in the past have tried to set up jackpots and stolen jackpots. I mean, it's worth the time. You get $100,000.
I have friends who are in the banking business. And there was a small casino in Los Angeles that actually, the casino invited them in to bank the Pai-Gow game just for the purpose of cheating the banking corporation. Yeah. So,
that could have been a long time ago. I mean, right now, there aren't any small casinos left in Los Angeles.
Only this was maybe 10 years ago.
Left.
Yeah.
There's no possible way. These corporations and the casinos are making tens of millions of dollars off of California games. They're not going to be nickel and diming people. If there's a scam, it's going to be a big hit, and it's going to be for a jackpot nowadays. I mean, obviously, if you had a if you're going into a 6-table casino or something in Sacramento, anything can happen, because $1,000 is big money to them. But in Los Angeles, where they're talking millions and not thousands, any cheating that you encounter is going to be extremely large scale, and it's not going to be done on an individual basis.
All right, let's change the subject a little bit while I bring my breathing under control.
You were turning him on, Limon, that's all.
My robe. I'm pitching a tent over here.
Oh, be still my heart. Now, you've written a number of posts on the 2+2 website. One that ended up being very extended conversation with many, 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 many people in it. How did that all get started?
Well, I mean, I have been on 2+2 since the very, very beginning. Even before you had to register, back when Sklansky and everybody, we were on like rec.gambling.poker, some like whatever those things were called, a BB fucking feed thing. Then, we all sort of moved over to 2+2. And I had been there for so long, since, the early 2000s, 1999, something like this. I'd been there for so long that I figured for my 2000th post, I would just sort of, tell my story a little bit and tell the truth about poker a little bit. And I didn't know if anyone would read it or care, but it resonated with people. And now, it's like 6 years later, the thing's got like 500,000 views and thousands of replies. So it did resonate with people. A lot of people, who I mean, I don't want to glow, but a lot of people who disagreed with me in the early stages have come back later and been like, yeah, you were right. So, I just felt like it was important to get the truth out there about being a professional poker player.
And what is that truth?
The truth is that it's a job, basically like any other job. It's a hard job. It's a thankless job. It's a grind. It's not ship it holla balla. It's, it's not a freaking rocks and rings. It's not, just watching a Premier League football all day long and eating sushi and then going and picking up some money off some tourists. That's not the way it actually works. The way it actually works is you got to study, you got to work hard, you got to grind. You're going to go through some horrible, horrible times that are worse than you possibly imagine. And at the end of the day, really the only reason that you do it is because you're drawn to it and it's like a passion for you because it's not cheap money. It's not easy money. And for 99% of people, you're better off keeping your day job.
So what about the guy who wants to take it up for a living? Like,
right.
What would you tell them to do?
Well, here's what I would say. I would say never do poker as 100% of your income. Now, that doesn't mean that gaming can't be 100% of your income. You can, spend a few hours a week counting cards. You can spend a few hours a week looking for soft dealers at Ultimate Texas. You can spend a few hours a week maybe I don't want to say exactly, but finding other gambling opportunities that pop up at the poker table. You can do a podcast or a show. You can't ever have poker be 100% because what you'll end up happening is you will get too disconnected from society and you will burn yourself out, and then you'll find yourself waking up at the end of like a 10,000 hand downswing or something, which in live poker is like years of bad fucking run, and you'll have nothing to fall back on, and it'll get really dark and depressing. I mean, I meet a lot of very depressed professional poker players who they thought that it was going to be the greatest thing forever, and it just is not going to be the greatest thing forever. It's going to be a job.
But how do they get better? How do they become winning players?
Well, basically, this is interesting. Some players will never really be great poker players. It's like you have to be born with a certain aptitude for being good at poker. It's no different than saying like some people will just never dunk a basketball, right? It's not going to happen. They just can't jump that high. Some people will never be winning poker players. Now, you can buy a strategy that will get you to break even. I mean, basically, if you just play a short stack and play very, very tight up front and very, very loose in the back, you'll be a break-even poker player. I can make you a break-even poker player pretty much tomorrow in live No Limit Hold'em. But to be an actual winner who makes a living, you have to have an aptitude for it. You have to have an aptitude for it, and you have to be able to put in the work. So you have to be able to win, and you have to want to put in the work. And the work is hard. You have to be in forums. You have to read books. You have to interact with other poker players. You have to review your sessions. You have to do a lot of grindy stuff that isn't bala at all, that has nothing to do with eating sushi with your bros. It's a lot of fucking alone time thinking about poker hands, which isn't sexy or fun, but that's how you become a winning poker player.
You've written a number of things about tells on it. So in what way do you use tells other than heavy breathing?
Listen, tells are interesting. If I right now I'm with a site called Live at the Bike. You guys know Live at the Bike?
I know of it, but why don't you fill us in on that?
Well, Live at the Bike is basically the only netcast live casino poker game in the world. I mean, there's other ones that sort of are like invite games where, it's Phil Hellmuth and some other goofballs. But this is just a regular casino poker game with random people who show up in the casino to play. And the reason I mention this is because if you go back and watch any Live at the Bike episode, you will find tells on people, which is easy to do in hindsight. It's easy to go and be like, okay, seat 7. I'm going to watch him for 2 hours on this telecast. Or some of these guys have been on the telecast or on the netcast like dozens, hundreds of times. You can go back and watch any of these guys and get a load of tells on them. So everyone has tells. Everyone. The hard part is to see them in real time and to correlate them. So the first step to picking up tells on people is, number 1, believing they exist, and number 2, putting in all of the time and energy to see them. So basically, beginner tell session, try to get tells on the guy who's the most active at the table, because the time that you invest getting tells on this guy is going to pay dividends before it'll pay dividends on somebody who doesn't play very many hands. Because this guy plays a lot of hands, you're going to be in more hands with him than normal. So just focus in on this guy. And the most important thing is to not think you find a tell and then use it to make some spazzy fucking play. The important thing is to correlate their actions and know that you've found a tell. And it's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of paying attention, and sometimes it doesn't pay off at all. Like you spend 3 hours, you find a tell, and then you never get to play a hand with the guy. Or you spend 3 hours and you find a tell, and then the guy gets up and leaves. But at the end of the day, if you take it serious, you will build a book of tells in the back of your head on specific players and just some in general tells that work a lot. And on a daily basis, I make money from tells on a daily basis, basically.
Can you tell us more about Live at the Bike? Is this what game do they broadcast? What are the stakes? And are you're like the announcer for the show?
I am an announcer for the show. There's a few other professional poker players. Awais Ahmed is one of the announcers. I can't remember anybody else's name right now, but there's a bunch of professional poker players that are announcers. Oh God, I'm going to get myself in trouble.
So when is it on? Where can people find it? What are the stakes of the game? Now, I assume there's no hole card cameras, right?
No, there are hole card cameras.
Oh,
absolutely. Really? That's what makes it fun. You know, if you're watching at home, you know what the people have. It's actually, we don't use cameras. We use RFID cards. So the RFID cards, the table reads the cards and sends it on a, Nicole Juergens is also an announcer. Jeff Madsen, who's got like 4 bracelets. It's a lot of good poker players. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Willius, Jonathan, Poker Mutant, Lola. I'm simulcasting this on my Twitch channel, so people in chat were helping me out there with some of the names. The game is whatever stakes basically the players want to play. There's a lady named Lizette, who hosts the game. You can get in contact with her at liveatthebike.com if you want to play. She gives like a general outline, like today we're going to play 5-10, no limit, or today we're going to play 25-50, no limit. But once the players get there, they can say, oh, let's bump it up or let's make it a little smaller. But in general, what's on the schedule at liveatthebike.com is what's going to happen. And it's just random people showing up at a casino playing cards, and you can watch it online. And if you're somebody who plays at the Bicycle Casino a lot, here's a little tip. You get to see your opponents play cards, and you get to see their hole cards. I mean, it is basically the best. If you're like a live poker player in Los Angeles, it's basically the best training videos you will ever watch in your entire life. Because it isn't just some fucking pasty, bloated guy rambling on about mediocre poker strat. It's you watching the actual people that you're going to be playing against on a daily basis and seeing their hole cards. It's actually pretty amazing.
How often is this on?
It's on every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. I'll be doing the announcing tonight for a 5-10 game. It's actually a pretty amazing show. Long before I was associated with Live at the Bike, I was a consumer of Live at the Bike because I got to watch people who I play a lot of hands with. Somebody just said Corporation Mike. Yeah, I got like these like very active active aggro players. And just by watching them on the show and keeping track of correlating their tells and correlating their play style, correlating their bet, how their bet sizing, I was able to really make a lot of money off of these people. So if you're playing in Los Angeles and you're not watching live at the bike, you're leaving a ton of money on the table.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Is there a delay on this? It says
it's got a 15-minute delay, and the players aren't allowed to, use their phones at the table during hands or anything. So it's secure. It's a secure RFID line into the announcer's room. Everything's on a delay. As far as I know, I've never heard anything about it not being 100% safe. And I mean, if you you get to watch the entire show, you never see anything that seems sketchy. It's always it's very interesting. Plus, the stakes aren't high enough for anything crazy to happen. So basically, if you keep the stakes mediocre, nobody's going to you're not going to get some James Bond dude building an RFID stealer or something.
Now, we talked about tells. You're an Omaha player, I think, is much or more than a Hold'em player.
That's true.
Are tells more or less important in Omaha than they are in Hold'em?
Tells are much more important in Omaha than in Hold'em. And here's the reason why. In Omaha, there's basically the nuts and everything else. Because when you're sitting at a full ring Omaha game with 9 players, they're basically dealing out 54 Hold'em hands, because each Omaha hand is 6 Hold'em hands. So because of that, everyone is deathly scared of the nuts. Because you see the nuts a lot. If a lot of money goes in, somebody's going to show you the nuts, and somebody else is going to show basically some ridiculous draw that's maybe even a favorite to the nuts. Because of that, people are very sort of polarized in their reactions to their hand and specific turn and river cards, specific flops. They either have the nuts or not the nuts. And because of that, it's much easier to correlate tells. Also, in Hold'em, here's the basic thing about Hold'em. In Hold'em, you get dealt poker hands. You get dealt aces. Aces is a poker hand. If all I ever got dealt in Hold'em was aces, I would be a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever. I could just play every hand of the river, have no fucking strategy, and still make money. But in Omaha, you don't get dealt poker hands. Everyone gets dealt draws. There are no poker hands that you can just say, well, I got the aces, I'm going to the river and I'm going to make money. No, you got dealt a draw, and you have to figure out how that draw fits in with the flop, how that draw fits in with the turn, and how that draw fits in the river. Now, in Hold'em, because people get dealt poker hands, they can just mentally check out a lot. You can't get a lot of tells on them. They basically know, I'm going to do this with this hand, I'm going to do that with that hand. They're not surprised, but in Omaha, you're surprised constantly if you're not a good player. Every turn card is a fucking giant surprise to an amateur Omaha player. Every river card is a giant surprise to an amateur Omaha player. So if you're the expert player and you're thinking ahead, you pick up a lot more tells in Omaha.
Interesting. Now, you sometimes host an Omaha game.
Yes.
I'm a video poker player. I don't know what it means to host a poker game. What is that?
Okay, so basically, in Los Angeles, because we have so many giant poker rooms, these poker rooms are in competition for a limited number of players at the very top end. At the bottom end, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, 8. There's an infinite. It seems as if there's an infinite number of players. There are just ploppies everywhere. But at the very top end, once you get to maybe my game is 5, 10, 20 basically. So once you get to the 10, 20 level and above, it's a much, much smaller player pool. So the casinos have to compete for a small number of players at that level. So what they do is they will hire a host to make sure that their game doesn't leave. So what the host does is basically he organizes the game. He'll play anybody heads up. He's always there when somebody wants action. He handles disputes amongst the players. He makes sure that all the players' little ticky-tack complaints get taken care of. And he plays in the game. So what ends up happening is if a casino has a big game without a host, the players will, they'll sort of start to wander away. Like getting poker players in the same place at the same time is like herding cats. And if you don't have somebody there to herd the cats, the players will just start wandering away and they'll start going to other casinos. So to keep big games, most casinos hire a host for the big games.
So if I'm a Pot Limit Omaha player and I know that you're hosting a game at the bike,
right?
But I know you're a really good player, wouldn't I want to go to the Commerce or somewhere else to avoid playing against you, who's a good player?
Well, you would think that, but that's actually not the way it works. Most recreational players are there to have an experience, and that experience doesn't necessarily revolve around winning money.
No,
I gotta be very careful.
I understand that for the recreational player. If I'm a recreational player, I want to go where I absolutely know the game is going to be there when I get there,
right.
and I want to have a good time. I don't want a bunch of assholes that are going to abuse me and that kind of stuff. But if I'm a guy who's actually trying to be a money-making player, I don't know, but maybe you attract a lot of fish, so maybe I would want to be in your game.
That you just talked long enough to stumble on it. If I get recreational players to come play, the pros will show up. They have to. They have no choice. Basically professional players, if you have a good game, you can basically spit in their face and they'll still show up because they have no choice. The key is to have the recreational players. So an easy way to think about it from a Vegas perspective is everybody knows they're going to lose. All recreational players know they're going to lose at blackjack. They know they're going to lose at roulette. They know they're going to lose at craps, but they still show up. Why do they still show up? Because they like the VIP treatment. They like to gamble. They like to, go where everybody knows their name. They're always glad you came. So basically, I run a poker game the way Steve Wynn runs the Wynn. I am the VIP host. Some people might say well, that's a strange job for a poker player, but it actually isn't, because if you're a good poker player, a winning poker player, you usually end up doing this stuff anyway. There's somebody in every poker game that sort of keeps track of people's phone numbers, knows everybody's name, jokes around, will play short. Just that most of these guys don't get paid. I said, if I'm going to do this stuff anyway, I should get paid for it. That's basically my feeling on it.
Yeah, I ran into exactly this when I used to be a backgammon player. And one of the problems is that, and this is true in poker too, some of the professionals are not the nicest, most pleasant people in the world to be around. So how do you keep the professionals that are assholes out of your game? You have to open the game to everybody, right?
Well, the game is open to everybody. It's a public casino. But I don't have to call everybody and tell them when the game is starting, right?
Yeah. But I'm sure there must be those players that you wish, like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't show up.
Yeah, and you know what? I've had a few of those guys over the years. Most of the time you can just take them aside and say, hey, you're being a fucking douche. You need to, straighten up. This game is not here for you. This game is here for these recreational guys. If you don't straighten up, and start acting right. If you keep berating people at the table, if you keep talking strat at the table, if you keep, getting on people's cases, you're just basically uninvited to the game. Most of the time, these guys will straighten up. Most of the time. And if they don't straighten up, you basically just uninvite them. Try to weaselly figure out when the game is. But once a guy is uninvited, even the most because a lot of the modern poker player guys that came from the internet are these Aspergery on the spectrum weirdos. Even these guys, these spectrum guys who really are basically high functioning sociopaths. Even these guys figure out when they're not wanted and stop showing up.
You wouldn't want them in your game for sure.
That sounds more like video poker players to me.
Well. A lot of live poker players are basically video poker type players because of the internet boom. But they're right now, for the first time ever, I've started seeing young guys show up in the casino who can't play poker. It's awesome. It's amazing. I mean, for at least from like 2004 to 2010, you never saw a young guy show up in the casino who couldn't play really well. Now I'm seeing lots of young guys show up at the casino. It's like the old days. They're like, how many cards are in the deck? What are the suits? You know, it's actually pretty great.
And they're playing at your stakes?
Oh yeah. The way that in Los Angeles is completely different than Las Vegas. In Los Angeles, we have rich people. And the way that rich people operate is basically they walk in, they look around, and they play in a game that sort of fits their quote-unquote bankroll. So, I mean, if you've got a kid who goes to Vegas and bets $100 a hand at blackjack, the second that he walks into the card room, he's already looking at a game where $100 chips are in play. They don't think twice about it.
Wow.
We have a lot of rich people in Los Angeles. A lot.
All right, we're talking to Limon, who's a poker player from Los Angeles, where they have rich players, and we're going to do a few commercials, and then we have some more questions for Limon in just a few minutes.
All right.
The South Point has more than 10,000 games, returning more than 99%. That's more than anybody else has. The promotion in June is you get to pick up your free play twice. Normally at the South Point, you pick up free play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now you pick it up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if you pick it up, you also get to pick it up the same amount on the weekend. And so you're ending with double the free play that you normally get. So if you normally get 75 a week, you're now getting 150 a week. But you have to pick it up early in the week to pick it up again later. At the Palms, they have weekly drawings, 7 p.m., Friday nights. Winners share $10,000. Don't need to be there to win. You do need to claim your prize by midnight. They have multiple entries on Fridays, both in the afternoon and at night. Play for prizes for the first 2 weeks of June is free play. For the third and fourth week is Fry's electronic gift cards, and the last few days of the month it's going to be cash. So this is a form of basically double points. You do keep your points. Videopoker.com is the best place to play a lot of different games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get corrections on most of the game. The game of the week this week is 50 play with quick quads. This is what it sounds like. It is a quick quad game based on 50 play. It is quite a bit more exciting than triple play or 5 play or 10 play. If you get a good hand, you just go through quick quads, quick quads, quick quads. So it'll just talk to you and you'll get 4, 5, or 6 of them in the 50 hands. It's actually, they have very good sound effects in quick quads. It is one of my favorite games. All right, let's go. We're talking to Limon, who is a poker player who doesn't mince words. Now, you're associated with a pay site called CrushLivePoker.com.
No, I am not associated with that site.
Really?
I have left that site.
Then let's not talk about that.
Now I'm associated, I'm a partner with LiveAtTheBike.com, which is a much, much better site. It's definitely a move up in the world. So I left the mediocre training site and I moved to a good training site. So
there are training videos and stuff at Live at the Bike in addition to the show?
Yes.
And is that a pay site?
Okay, here's the way it works. Every show on Live at the Bike, when it's live, is free. But if you want access to the archives, which is literally tens of thousands of hours of poker and poker training, you have to pay $10 a month for access to the archives. But all of the shows when they're live are free. Now, if you want access to the archives just on a test basis for free, you can enter my code POKERSESH, 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 and the sign up coupon code, and you get a free month to check out the archives to see if it's something that you like.
Are they searchable? Like if, for example, you wanted to watch Omaha 8 only,
right?
Could you? Are they sorted by that? So it would be these 20 videos over here or Omaha 8, or how does it work?
Yeah, right now we have I'm going to be honest, basically a rudimentary sorting system. We're going to do a relaunch where we have an extremely detailed sorting system. Right now it's more rudimentary, but yes, you can find games by style. You can't really search down to the granular level of saying, I just want to see games that Phil Locke played in or something like this. We don't have that level of drill down yet, but that's what we're working on.
Very good. All right.
Just a quick aside. I notice in your email address you have the word fantasy. Are you a fantasy sports bettor as well? Or is that too sensitive a topic?
I guess that was a funny question, Richard.
My email address. Oh God, how can I say this? The reason that fantasy's in the title is because there's a lot of gaming is discussed in my email, and so I wanted plausible deniability.
I get you. I get you. Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I guess I should probably talk about where people can get our show. So
that's a good plan.
First of all, we welcome your questions. We encourage your questions. You can reach us at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com or facebook.com/gamblingwithanedge. If you want the show delivered automatically to you every week, you can do that easily at iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or at my site, richardmunchkin.com. If you want an archive of all of our past episodes, you can find that at bobdancer.com.
Thank you, Limon, and thank you, Richard. And go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.
Adios, amigos.
You've been listening to Gambling with an Edge with your hosts Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin. Subscribe to the show in iTunes, and episodes will be delivered to you automatically every week. Archived versions of past shows may be found at bobdancer.com and richardmunchkin.com. We welcome emails at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com. Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin are both available on Facebook and welcome your questions. The sponsors for the show are the South Point Hotel, Casino and Spa, the M Resort, the Palms Casino Resort, and the website videopoker.com. Join us again next week for another Gambling with an Edge.